Hello, this is Gemini, your friendly neighborhood spy. Welcome back to my channel for this year's CYL video and my 6,000 orb save special, both wrapped up into one neat video. Several years ago, I released a video celebrating my having reached 5,000 orbs saved, and used it as a chance to talk about tips that helped me save so many orbs. Now that I've finally gotten the horde all the way up to 6k, I figured it was time to make another. I won't be talking about orb saving today. My old video still serves that purpose, so if you're looking for tips to build your own throne out of orbs, you can check that one out too. No, today we'll be talking about something else. I ended off my orb saving sermon with the most significant piece of advice I had: to have a favorite who IS will never give an ult to. That all but guarantees you'll be able to stockpile orbs into the sky. In the years since I made my orb saving video, my favorite character, Matthew, still has yet to receive even a single ult, but he's far from the only one. So today, with CYL 10 about to begin, I'll be going through some of the characters who have gone years without receiving any ults, in some cases quite surprisingly. If you're trying to decide who to vote for this year and want to encourage IS to branch out to a wider group of characters, then any of these characters might be good voting options for you. This is far from a definitive list, mind you. They're just a handful of characters who stood out to me as I was browsing the results from last year's CYL voting. I should also say I only included characters who have had their base version in the game for a long time, some since launch, so characters who are in alt hell or aren't in the game at all were not considered. With all that said, let's get started. We'll get the obvious one that you all know I'm here to talk about out of the way: my dear Matthew. The witty and charming thief from FE7, the first thief for many players of the series who took their first Fire Emblem journey in the world of Elite with Blazing Blade's international release. Despite having a significant role in the game's story and placing respectably in CYL, Matthew has yet to get an ult in Fae. He came super close to striking into the top 100 placements last year, so a little more of a push might be all he needs to cross that line and hopefully earn some attention from IS. If you ask me, a completely unbiased source, Matthew is highly deserving of your CYL votes this year. Up next, we have one that I find particularly surprising: Soleil, the womanizing warrior from Fate's Conquest. Like Matthew, she placed well in CYL and came close to the top 100. Despite her popularity and her place in the roster of a recent and well-loved Fire Emblem game, she has yet to get an ult of her own. I can only imagine there are two reasons for this. First, she suffers from not being a noble. The Fates nobles tend to scoop up most of that game's ults. Second, although I doubt this is as big a factor, Soleil is considered a somewhat controversial character because of her support conversations with Corrin. However, I'm not sure how much this is the case among the Japanese fans at Nintendo, so it might not really be a factor at all. Regardless, I am surprised that she hasn't gotten anything after all this time. After Soleil, we have Sumiya. I'm surprised by this one, perhaps even more than Soleil. Awakening has long been blessed with an abundance of ults, and Sumiya is the closest thing Chrom has to a canonical wife. Every time we get a new Heroes Awakening banner, I expect to see her as an asset ult, but it still hasn't happened. I suppose she suffers from being less popular than Cordelia, but it still seems strange. With all the ults Awakening gets, I'd almost expect her to stumble into one by accident. See what I did there? Stumble? Because she's clumsy. Moving on. Next, we have another entry from FE7, that being the hard-eyed mercenary Raven. As a fan favorite from FE7, I find it strange that he's gone all this time without an ult. Of course, like many who will be making an appearance on this list today, he suffers from being a male character in a game that's obsessed with waifus. Nevertheless, as a Fae launch character and a staple of many people's FE7 playthroughs, I'm surprised he hasn't picked up at least one ult after all this time. Up next is Claire from Shadows of Valentia. I can only imagine she hasn't gotten an ult since Valentia is a fairly neglected game in Fae unless you're one of like 5 characters. Still, being a relatively popular female character, I'm still surprised she hasn't ended up with an ult somewhere. Hopefully she gets something soon. From the Binding Blade, we have Klein. Now, between his CYL results and him being a male character, I'm not all that shocked that he doesn't have an ult yet. And yet a little bit. As a launch character with a frankly fantastic design, I thought he'd have at least something by now. And yet he doesn't even have a Resplendent, let alone an ult. I guess I'm just surprised that he isn't a little more popular than he is too. Maybe we'll see something for him someday. That brings us to yet another Fates non-noble, Silas. With Silas, it's similar to what I said about Sumiya. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten an ult, if only because of his connection to one of his game's lords. Silas is established early in Fates as Corrin's childhood friend, who they somehow forgot about. I guess that could be the reason, but I don't know. I found Silas very endearing and would love to see him get something. Hell, he would have been perfect on the Fates Child banner last year if it didn't have to be another giveaway to the Conquest Nobles that definitely weren't hurting for ults already. Similarly, Kaze not having an ult is another one that stands out from Fates. Like Silas, he has a connection to Corrin as the one who failed to protect them when Nor kidnapped them. An ult alongside Corrin would be perfect for him. Even his brother has one, but poor Kaze has been left out of the fun. Next is Jill from the Tellius games. Jill hasn't been in Fae as long as some of the other characters here, but I'm frankly astounded that she hasn't gotten an ult yet. I always thought of her as one of the most iconic characters from both Tellius games, a character with one of the most memorable arcs in the game. And between all the Mia alts, you'd think they'd have the time to give at least one to Jill. Nothing against Mia, mind you, but she's always quite well taken care of, so it'd be nice to see Jill get a turn with a fun new costume. And that brings us next to Matthew from the Blazing Blade, a character I'm really shocked hasn't received an ult yet. Not only does he consistently place well in CYL, but he even won a category of the Voting Jubilee alongside his doomed love interest. While Layla has received several ults, Matthew has yet to get one of his own despite being a playable character from FE7. I'm rather fond of him myself and really hope to see him get an ult this year. Another character who's gone surprisingly ultless for a long time is Rayson from the Tellius games. Rayson is a reasonably popular character and very memorable from Tellius, but on top of that, Faye loves giving ults to beast units. There aren't that many, so I'm really surprised he hasn't gotten one yet. An ult alongside his sister or Tibarn would be really cool, so hopefully IS gets on that. Yet another ultless Fates character is Baruka. It really is tough being a non-noble from that game, huh? Because on paper, Baruka seems perfect for an ult. Not only is she a relatively popular female character, but she's also a retainer of Camilla, one of the most popular characters in the series. You'd think they'd end up on a banner or as a duo together, but so far she's been entirely ignored. Up next is Bowie from Shadows of Valentia. Between having an awesome design and being half of one of the most memorable dynamics from Shadows of Valentia, speaking of course about him and May, I'm surprised he didn't make it onto the spring banner alongside his other half last year. The two of them would have been perfect as a duo. Maybe this year the spring banner will give him his chance. Another fan favorite from FE7 who has unfortunately been ignored is Kanaz. As the game's only playable dark mage until Athos, he left a strong impression on fans of the game with his bookish charm. I always expected him to appear on the desert banner as a researcher exploring ancient runes, but with that theme seemingly retired, who knows when he'll get his chance. As someone who likes FE7 a normal amount, I would love to see him get a new summonable ult, especially since his only version is locked as a Grail unit. Like her brother, I'm also surprised that Clarine has remained ultless for all this time. While her parents Pent and Louise have been treated a little better, that whole family really deserves more attention in Fae. Get on it, IS. Personally, I think Clarine is an absolutely perfect fit for the semi-annual Tea Time banner. One of the highest placed CYL characters on this list is Arvis, one of the main villains and a fan favorite from Genealogy of the Holy War. There are lots of parallels between him and Edelgard, so a duo between the two of them could be really interesting. But I think an Ascended ult that explores Arvis' motivations also has a lot of potential. Maybe this year, Arvis fans, I'm rooting for you. That brings us to the highest ranked CYL character on this list, Tsubasa from Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Honestly, with her commanding placement in CYL for years now and her cute design, the fact that she hasn't gotten an ult of her own is frankly astounding. I can only imagine she's being ignored because of IS's reluctance to make anything new for Tokyo Mirage Sessions. It does make you wonder, though, why they even included the game in Fae in the first place, or why they continued to include it in each year's voting. As a character with a real chance of being one of this year's winners, I wish her supporters the best of luck. Up next is Maribel from Awakening. While she isn't the most popular character from the game, she definitely has fans. I think she'd be perfect for the Tea Time banner alongside Clarine. They'd be an amazing harmonic, though I'd prefer a duo for Maribel and Lissa over even that. Fingers crossed. Which brings us finally to Matthew from the Blazing Blade. Alongside his respectable CYL placement and his Voting Jubilee win, he's also an all-around awesome character. His fans are chopping at the bit for him to get an ult. I hear that one of his fans even has a pile of 6,000 orbs saved just for him. If there's any character who's truly deserving of an alt, it's the faithful spy who made his way to Asker on his own almost a decade ago. And there we have it, the characters who I can't believe still don't have an alt in Fae. With CYL starting up, they're all equally deserving of your support, with absolutely no one single character being the most deserving who you should definitely vote for. If you don't mind. Hopefully this year we'll see at least some of these characters, and definitely not one in particular, get a new version in Fae. And regardless of whether you're voting for an altless character, a top contender, or a character who isn't in the game yet at all, I hope you have a fun CYL. That's all for today, Summoners. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and Gemini out.